Alright, so lately I've been having a lot of people ask me about videos about overviews for talents and glyphs and character overviews for, well, all classes. So something that what I'll be going over in this video is Death Knights for MoP and beta. And keep in mind this is beta. So for talents, you start out with the screen like this. If you've looked up talents, I'm sure you've already know what was how everything works out and everything with talents and everything. So, but to show how exactly your spellbook ends up, I'm going to activate my the spec I already have set up and everything. And you end up with a spellbook like this. So basically, with Frost and Unholy, if you go Blood, or if you go Frost, you'll have Blood and Unholy down here. I'm pretty sure that's how that'll work. It'll show you how all the spells that are available for that particular setup if you were to have gone Frost or if you were to have gone Unholy. So you have like the spells that you can use, you have the talents, you have the passives, etc. So if we go back into talents and activate the talent tree. So once the next patch, I'm pretty sure it's the next patch that will be unlocking these for the new talents and specializations and whatnot. You pick what you want to be, whether you want to be blood, tank, frost damage, or unholy damage for DKs. For other classes, it's going to be tank, healing, and damage or whatever, basically. So since this is going to be my DPS spec, I usually go frost personally because of the pillar frost is good for burst, and I just like frost as a whole as it's a fairly basic and simple setup for me. So I pick that, pick specialization, then we have to go down to talents tab. This is where you pick your talents. So we have rolling blood. Your blood boil ability now also triggers pestilence if it strikes a diseased target. So I guess what you basically have to go with for that is you have to, oh, we'll learn it. So I guess what you'd basically have to do for that is you go up to your target, hit it, cast blood boil, and it's applied to everything else. So if you were to go with that, I'm guessing you'd want to go with a glyph. I'm pretty sure the glyph is still available. Well, apparently it's not available. Alright, so if you're going with that, you have to keep in mind about the radius. I guess in the sense that something does have to be fairly close because the radius is only covering roughly around here. It's not covering a big radius like... It's basically covering a radius around the size of a Death and Decay. I'll leave that at that. So we'll use a... Alright, so can't do that right now. But you also have Plague Leech, draw forth the infection from an enemy consuming your blood, plague, and frost fever disease on the target to activate a randomly fully depleted rune as a death rune. I don't think many people are going to be using that one, as it's not as interesting, I guess, as the other two. Then we have Lichborn, something that if you're into PvP and whatnot, if you go with Lichborn, pretty sure this would still work. Yeah, draw upon unholy energy to become undead for 10 seconds. While undead, you are immune to charm, fear, and sleep effects, and Death Coil will heal you. So basically, if you had Lichborn, you just cast it, target yourself, and start doing AoEs or whatever, or you could even macro it to do a automatic target, or it'll target you, and then you'll do Lichborn. That's also something that would work for that. I can guarantee that that's not going to be used in PvE, at all unless there's for some reason a boss that does a charm, a fear, or a sleep effect, which I know can happen every now and then, but I doubt that will be something that will be used in PvE. So the next talent we have is Anti-Magic Zone. Anti-Magic Zone will basically put a zone roughly, again, around the same size as a Death and Decay. So around this size. And anything within it will reduce spell damage and reduce spell damage by 75%, and it will last for 10 seconds or until it absorbs 65,520 spell damage, which I'm sure will increase or vary depending on strength or some stat. That might even be mastery, I'm not sure. Just a few theories out there. Now this one, Purgatory, is probably going to be another thing that's going to be kind of like a fight against PvPers picking between Lichborn or Purgatory. Purgatory, I've used it, it can be really useful, but it's kind of a guessing your cards, because you can either end up with Lichborn where you know for a fact that it's going to work and everything, or you can go with Purgatory where it grants you the ability to fight on through damage that would kill mere mortals. When you sustain fatal damage, you instead are wrapped in a shroud of Purgatory, absorbing incoming healing equal to the amount of damage prevented, lasting 3 seconds. If any healing absorption remains when Shroud of Purgatory expires, you die. So basically, that'd be a good one for if you are doing a DPS healer comp or something like that. That I guess would also be useful in PvE as well for tanks, because then that's a extra 3 seconds of trying to get turn a wipe and get it turned around and pull out of it and make it so that it's not a wipe. So then now we're going to go to the 58 talents. So for the 58 talents, we have the instant cast, which you passively move 10% faster, and movement impairing effects may not reduce you below 70% of your normal movement speed. When activated, you gain 30% movement speed and may not be slowed below 100% of normal movement speed for 6 seconds. So I'm guessing that this is something that you can turn on or turn off. I'm pretty sure we'll even try that out. Chillblains, it's very much to how Chillblains and Frostback is right now. It just, when you have Frost Fever on your target, it slows them down. That's basically it. Then we have Asphyxiate. Asphyxiate, it turns your Silence, your Strangulate into a stun. It can stun them for 5 seconds, and it functions as a silence if the target is immune to stuns. Then we have Death Pact. Now, Death Pact is probably going to be, actually I think this entire row will be something that'll be kind of deciding on what would be better. And I guess it would also depend, for these talents, it depend on PvE, rating composition, on what group you're running with and who you have in the group. I guess it also depend on what comp you're working with in arena teams and other things like that. As Death Pact is, it's not really changed. You summon a minion, you sacrifice it, you gain 50% health. Death Siphon is a new one, and this one's actually pretty good in my opinion. You deal 11,933 Shadow Frost damage to an enemy, healing the Death Knight for 100% of the damage dealt. So I'm sure that if you were to like crit on it, it'd be amazing, but it requires 1 death rune. So you'd have to, for using that, you definitely have to figure out and work on making it so that you can maximize how many death runes you can get up. If you're playing a class, well, if you're playing a spec that generates a lot of runic power, then conversion for PvP might just be the talent you are looking for, because you activate it, it continuously converts runic power to health, restoring 3% of your maximum health every 1 second. Only base runic power generation from spending runes may occur while conversion is active. This effect lasts until cancelled or runic power is exhausted. So once you run out of runic power, it stops working, and then once you get more runic power, you can simply just turn it back on and it'll start working again. Then we also have Blood Tap. Blood Tap is something I guess a lot of DKs kind of look over, but some DKs don't look over and do use it when they can. It regenerates each damaging Death Coil, Frost Strike, and Rune Strike generates 2 blood charges up to a maximum of 12 charges. Blood Tap consumes 5 blood charges to activate a random fully depleted rune as a death rune, and it is an instant cast. So I'm sure that's something you could keep spamming. As a Frost DK, I know that personally Frost Strike does come up a lot, so if you're able to refresh that, it means that you can get more Obliterates out there, more Howling Blast, etc, etc. Then we also have Runic Empowerment. Runic Empowerment is a passive. When you land a damaging Death Coil, Frost Strike, or Rune Strike, you have a 45% chance to activate a random fully depleted rune, which I guess you'd have to look at how often you're getting the runic power to pop Blood Tap, how often you need those extra runes and stuff like that. And then we also have Runic Corruption. Runic Corruption, when you land a damaging Death Coil, Frost Strike, or Rune Strike, you have a 45% chance to activate Runic Corruption, increasing your rune regeneration rate by 100% for 2.73 seconds. I would say that this would probably be a better one than Runic Empowerment, because if you're going for rune regeneration, I guess this would also depend on what spec you're going with, because I know that in Unholy spec you're aiming more for haste, which increases how fast your runes come back up. So that's something to look at there. And then you also have Runic Empowerment. Again, I guess I'd go back to looking about how often you can pick up your runic power. That's very much runic power based. I guess what you're getting out of this would be that, well, how I'm looking at it is that Death Knights are becoming very runic power based, and well, as MoP as a whole, from what I've been seeing, it's very PvP based. All the talents are very looking at, if you look at them, most of them turn toward PvP. So let's go to the level 90 talents. I know I'm not level 90 yet. I can't show you guys these talents. I'd love to, but not there yet. But we have Gorfian's Grasp. Shadowy Tendrils coil around all enemies within 20 yards of a target, hostile or friendly, pulling them to the target's location. So I guess that would be something that would be good for tanks. Just pull everything into one area, throw an AoE down. I guess you could pull something into a Death and Decay, throw a Gorfian's Grasp down, pull everything into it, and boom, you have all aggro. That'd be amazing. You have Remorseless Winter. That one's going to be very much a PvP one. Actually, I think Gorfian's Grasp might even be good for PvP. For examples where your healer, well, the enemy decides that they're going to go hard on you, and pop all their cooldowns on you. So what you could do is you could throw Gorfian's Grasp on your friend or the person you're doing arenas with, throw that on them. All of the enemy players are pulled right over to them and pulled away from you, thus taking a few seconds off from the burn phase, which I guess would be really helpful. But let's move on to Remorseless Winter. Remorseless Winter surrounds the Death Knight with a swirling tempest of frigid air for 8 seconds, chilling enemies within 8 yards. Every 1 second, each pulse reduces the target's movement speed by 15% for 3 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Upon receiving a 5th application, an enemy will be stunned for 6 seconds. So, if you're going to go with this, for this particular talent, I would say that one would definitely need to be... See, I would really like to try this talent out, see how it works. But I would have to say that if you were to use this in PvP, that'd definitely be a moment where you'd have to work with your partner, your arena partner, or work with the team and try and stay on top of the enemy player as much as possible. So you can get that, stay on top of them for 3 seconds so you can get that stun out. Because getting that stun out might be the very thing of going from a loss to a win. Because as we all know, every second counts in PvP for getting stuns out. And our last talent is the Desecrated Ground. It corrupts the ground in an 8-yard radius beneath the Death Knight for 10 seconds. While standing in this corruption, the Death Knight is immune to effects that cause loss of control. This ability instantly removes such effects when activated. So I'm sure this is something that could be used while being CC'd. So I think that'll be definitely a big thing in PvP as well. But I hope this helps you out. And then we have the talents, well, the glyphs. Not a whole lot different with this, except for you only have the option of 6 glyphs instead of 9. So, and a lot of the talents are very compressed down into fewer glyphs. But I hope this video helps you out. I hope, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and yeah, talk to you guys later.